So for most of the time when I was growing up, pretty much all the time I was growing up, for me, parent equaled mom. I never met my biological father, and my stepfather was only intermittently involved in my childhood. I don't have any recollection of ever having lived with him. He lived down the block, and we saw him occasionally because, quite frankly, well, he was a junkie, and you can have heroin or you can have a family, but you can't really have both. And then when I was 11, my mom and my brother and I, collectively, I guess you would call it now, voted him off the island. We asked him to leave us alone, and he did. I'll give him credit for that. And then when I was 13, my older brother moved out of the house. He got married. He went to law school. And so for most of my teenage years, it was really just mom and me. And so for things like Thanksgiving, it didn't make any sense to do the whole big Thanksgiving spread. So mom would make mashed potatoes, and we'd get the can of cranberry sauce that when you opened it up and slid it out, it still looked like the can. And then we'd go to the deli and get turkey sandwiches. And while that sounds kind of sad, it was actually very, very sweet. And I love mom, and I never felt deprived of not having a dad, but I just had no idea what that would have been like. So skip ahead, and I'm now in college, and I've got a boyfriend. And he invites me home to spend Christmas with his family. And I really wanted his parents to like me. Part of this was because I was completely crazy about David. And part of this was because, well, I'm just a good girl, and I wanted his parents to like me. So we get there, and I meet Harry and Lois, his parents, and I'm not really worried about Lois. She was lovely. And besides, moms, I get. I can do mom. I have mom. But Harry was this other thing, this kind of dad behind the curtain. I don't know how to deal with dads. And something that was, well, it's probably true now, but it was particularly true then. I was somebody who wanted to know how to react in any situation. And so when I didn't know how to react, I was automatically outside my comfort zone. So there I am, I really want his parents to like me, and I'm already outside my comfort zone because I have no idea how to make a dad like me. Okay, so we're hanging out, and his dad tries to make some conversation with me, and he says, so, now I have to preface this by saying, his dad was a physics professor, and his dad says to me, so I understand you're taking physics, which would have been true about 2 weeks earlier. Only I had just dropped physics because I hated it with a white-hot passion. And so there I am going, oh yeah, about that. Not so much. I just dropped physics. Okay, and what's going through my head now is, strike one. Okay, so thankfully we get out of the house. David and I go to the shopping mall. We go shopping, we do a whole bunch of Christmas shopping, there's a trunk full of stuff. We get back to the car, put all the stuff in the trunk, and the car won't start. The car won't start because David has forgotten to turn off the lights of the car, and the battery's dead. So David has to go call his dad, who has to come pick us up, and of course this is in the era before cell phones, because I'm gold. And his dad has to come find us in the shopping mall parking lot because, you know, there's no other cars there. Okay. So the car pulls up, and his dad gets out of the car, gets his jumper cables, walks over to the car. His dad says nothing to us. David opens the car. They do the jump thing, they start the car. It's magic to me because I'm a New Yorker, I don't drive. His dad says nothing to us. He gets back in the car and he drives away, and we just follow him. And he pulls up at the house and he gets out of the car And he has still said nothing to us. He doesn't even look back at the car that we are in as he enters the house. And so we go in and he says nothing. Now, of course, I'm thinking several things here. One of which is, I don't know how to react to this situation. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm not really great in those sort of situations where I don't know how to react. So I am so far out of my comfort zone that I don't even know what my comfort zone looks like. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And all I can think is, strike two. So we go in, we unload the car. His dad sits in the living room rather impassively, says nothing. And pretty much I'm thinking, since my mom, she was the sort of person that when she was mad at you, she might yell. And when she was really, really, really mad at you, she would get really, really quiet. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be the most awkward Christmas ever. Great. So we unload the car, and David decides, well, I think I'm just going right upstairs. So he takes off upstairs. And I'm kind of trailing behind thinking, I don't know what to do here. And his dad calls me over. And I'm like, yes. And Harry looks at me with this kind of little knowing smile in his eye, and a very kindly voice. And he says, you seem like you have a good head on your shoulders. Next time you'll make sure he turns off the lights, right? And I just said, yes, I will. And I go upstairs. And okay, so then, you know, that kind of breaks a little of the tension. We come downstairs later and we have dinner. And dinner is great. Dinner is full of wonderful conversation about, I don't know, what's going on in everybody's life, and the arts and current affairs, and it's great fun. And I'm finally breathing, I think. And then after dinner, we get into a conversation, Harry and I. And I say conversation, this is about geopolitical events of 1982. And I'm a poli-sci major, and I'm 19, so of course I know everything there is to know about geopolitical events in 1982. And now we're in my comfort zone. So we get into this conversation that is a lively exchange of intellectual positions. And after a couple of hours of this lively interchange of differing positions, I realized that everybody in the house has toddled off except for Harry and me. And all of a sudden, the comfort zone leaves. And I'm like, okay, guess it's time to go to bed. Thanks, bye. And I go upstairs, and all I can think is, oh my God, I just spent the last 2 hours arguing with my boyfriend's dad who doesn't know me. Strike three. So I go upstairs, and David's there watching TV, and he's like, hey, hi. And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry about that. And I was like, your dad's gonna just hate me, isn't he? And David looked at me and he goes, are you kidding me? My dad is going to love you because you will sit and argue with him for 2 hours, which none of the rest of us will do. You know, and it turned out David was right. And Harry did love me, and I loved Harry. And then over the next couple of years, I finally got through that trial of fire that day that was good and bad and terrifying and funny all at once. All of a sudden, I realized that I had an idea of what it was like to have a dad. I'd never really felt that before, and quite frankly, I really haven't felt it since in the same way. And looking back, I didn't realize it at the time, but now I realize that was pretty much one of the best gifts I have ever gotten in my entire life. Thank you.